So for this review, I'm not going to show too much gameplay beyond the first or second level, as well as maybe some of the side content, just because it might expose a bit of the stuff going on in the full game experience. And so while the trailers do allude to a lot as well, not everyone might have seen the trailers, and I don't want to ruin some of those twists and turns and spoil it for people, which ultimately, I think it might ruin the fun, especially if you did enjoy going down that rabbit hole with what the Fear games did provide. So, ultra violent, ultra fast, and ultra fun. That is the best way that I do have to describe Trepang2, as I believe how it's actually pronounced. It shows up as Trepang2. Trepang2, though, is what it is listed as everywhere and said. The game comes off as a literal love letter to what Fear, and more importantly, what Fear 2 was. An ultra-violent and gory horror-like FPS shooter that you can have a gun later on that takes the place of that 10mm HV penetrator from Fear, called the bolt gun, allowing you to fill your enemies with stakes and just launch them through the warp of physics. After a bit of exploring the game to convert it with the round-burst grenade launcher to shoot the giant railroad spikes, that is. So, I mean, even if you're not shooting the giant stakes, it's still a fantastic weapon. It's still insanely fun to use. Okay, I'm going to even start giving away my impressions of the game, and I'm already about to gush on the game itself, so let's go ahead and dive into that. If you've ever played the Fear series, you'll feel right at home in Trepang2. You take on the role of 106, a super soldier, who can slow down time for some good old bullet time action, cloak yourself and turn invisible to reposition or take enemies by surprise, or sneak away from a bad situation, just kind of regain control on the battlefield. And lastly, you can boost slide and jump and dive kick enemies to your delight. Now, there really isn't much environmental effects going on here for kicking people into the environmental aspects to kill them. But you can also grab them and take them hostage and use them as human shields, throw them into enemies, turn them into a living thrown grenade, or just kill them outright in your hands. It's all bloody, it's all gory, and it's all fun, and all works fairly well. Now, why do you have these powers? Well, that'd be a spoiler. You're just a super soldier. But you don't really need to unlock them as you progress through the game. From the get-go, after a little bit of a tutorial, once you pick up your first gun, you have all of your abilities. You can go crazy and go ballistic and start reveling in the carnage and destruction that you can wring out on your enemies. There is one little bit of power you do gain later on, the second main level of the game, and that's an ability to dual-wield weapons of the same type. But that really just doesn't change too much. That just increases the carnage that you can bring about it. So you don't even realize you've been missing out on this until you have it. Whereas something like bullet time and cloaking is a larger mechanic, I think, to have locked behind that you gain. The dual wielding, not so much. Still a great addition once you can pick it up. I really don't honestly have much more to say about the gameplay. I played with a higher sensitivity than I normally do in an FPS because that's the type of game it was, a frantic, fast-paced action shooter. The guns all feel great to use, each of them, but I did end up finding my favorites as I went through. You can carry 2 different guns and dual-wield most of those as well, outside of the bolt gun and the just straight-up grenade launcher. But for most of the time, I just spent running around with dual pistols and dual shotguns, and that was really fun. It did everything I needed to. The game does have typical weapons. You have a pistol, submachine gun, assault rifle, shotgun, sniper rifle, the bolt gun, and a grenade launcher. Different consumables, different throwables, grenades, molotovs, a throwing axe, and some mines. So, typically through the campaigns, you can find yourself running out of ammo quite a bit, and so on the fly you're picking up new guns if you can't scavenge the right type of ammo as you go, and you're constantly changing and swapping the range of your engagement as you need against your enemies, and that really creates fun situations and a fun combat loop, I think. Now, in some situations, in certain boss arenas, there'll be stockpiles of ammo here or there, and then you'll have some ads spawn in that will help you pick up new guns and ammo as you need them, so they do kind of cover it from there. Level design for the most part is simple enough. each level design is essentially just a well-designed corridor to make you think that you're not just running from point A to point B, while you really are. A few spots you can get turned around, and some sort of T-intersections here or there, and some environmental spots can look a little samey, but if you're just looking at which way you came from, and you'll be able to tell from the bodies in the carnage you've left, well, you'll be able to tell which direction you do need to go. I think a little bit better direction on where you need to go in each mission would have been welcome, but overall, it's really simplistic and you understand what to look for as you're moving through the game. Now, this doesn't really include the side missions, which are all just kind of like small squarish areas that are essentially defeat waves of enemies. You're going to be defending objectives or just completing objectives. So, like, you're going to hack a server, and you're going to have to defend the servers from enemy hackers. You're going to try to stop your hacking and enemy forces, or defend some turrets you activated. And they all usually have a couple bosses in them as well, some high-value targets as they're called, which are tougher enemies. There's a list you can track of HVTs, and these HVTs are also in the main story as well. And different HVTs actually appear based upon the difficulty you're playing it on. So if you're going for a more difficult challenge, you will run into more difficult enemies, such as the HVTs, more often. The game overall isn't terribly long itself. I think after about 20 hours, I had not only beaten the game once over, but I also did all the side content outside of the combat sim. I didn't touch the combat sims, which are more like side missions and more different areas for more fun and carnage. But not only did I beat it on normal, I then ramped it up the difficulty, and I did end up beating it on rage mode, and it was very difficult, but once you do master the game's mechanics, using your bullet time, using your slide, using human shields, the different weapons and their attachments, it is fairly doable, as long as you have a faster reaction time. The bosses really are where it can be difficult, but it's easy enough to dodge all of their attacks. They're pretty slow and bumbling anyways, so they're going to jump at you, you slide to dodge away. It's all pretty simple. Gun-wise, like I stated, it's a super simple lineup. Pistol, SMG, assault rifle, sniper rifle, shotgun, all of that. Oh yeah, and a minigun as well. I forgot to mention that earlier. Alongside that, there are cosmetics you unlock for doing certain objectives when playing through, which you never really kind of see. You can kind of see your hands, and you can kind of see your legs. There is a first-person leg check that I do in every game, and you can in fact see your legs. And doing different side missions or main missions, as well as combat sims of different difficulties or combinations, will unlock different visual styles that you can equip. So there's that if you really want to go to be a completionist on the game. Visually overall, the game is crisp and clean. It's not really unique in a ton of aspects outside of maybe some enemy designs here or there. The environments are all pretty uniform, and that's where I think it can kind of get you turned around in some instances without any sort of indication on where it's really moved to advance the mission. Sometimes there'll be a door ajar, and you know, oh, you go through there, or a vent, or a green light by a door. But really, without any of this, there's not really an indication. I can kind of understand not wanting to do that. A lot of games do get overzealous in pointing the player in the right direction, and this was just a decision they made, and I can respect that. Enemy variety is outside of the fear type horror aspect, which there's only so much you can do there in that space that they do in that design space. Enemy design's limited as well. You have your basic military enemies, you have the enemy grunts, you have some shielded grunts, you have some more armored enemies. Really the difference comes into some different enemy factions where there'll be a different take on them as well, so there's that. The guns are all modeled well, and when you're putting on the different attachments for guns, you can see a very visual change in their appearance, which how you'd expect them to do. The attachment says unfold the shotgun stock. The stock unfolds and disappears from the model. Put on an incendiary attack with that shotgun, there's a little flame-lit thing on the end of that shotgun lighting everything alight. Laser appears on a pistol or SMG or assault rifle or sniper rifle. Everything visually makes sense of the guns. As you're killing stuff, you'll see gore pile up on your character's hands and guns as well, which is kind of neat. So they're all modeled well enough. Nothing super fancy, but they definitely get the job done and they serve their purpose fine. Audibly, there's not much really going on there either to be super excited about. The voice acting is what it is. It's serviceable. It's not the best voice acting there's ever been in an FPS, but it's by far not the worst, and it doesn't detract from the gameplay in any way. It doesn't add too much to it, really. The guns all sound great, though. They all sound unique, and they all do sound different when you have the suppressor on them as well. Explosions from your various throwables or the explosive weapons you have sound good as well as the environmental explosions you can cause in some situations. However, the best part about the audio in the game is the soundtrack. When you kick into the mess of combat, the soundtrack kicks in and it is fantastic. It's not something on the level of, say, what was that? Metal Hellsinger, where it's a rhythm game tied to a shooter, and you have professional. I don't want to call the composers of the game not professional, but like professional musicians who are in bands and stuff coming in and doing stuff for that. And I wouldn't say it's necessarily on the level of something like Tripwire's Killing Floor 2, but I would definitely say it's up there. It is a really good soundtrack, especially when it kicks on in large combat areas, and it really adds a sense of tenseness and kind of gets your blood flowing to get you to play a little bit better. When the music kicked on, it was fantastic. And honestly, I don't know. If you like the Fear series, particularly Fear 2, where they just kind of mastered everything from movement to, not intelligent enemy AI, but they're there and they serve their purpose enough, but they just kind of swarm you, as well as different bosses. Trepang2 is for you. If you like something that verges on a boomer shooter like Doom or Wolfenstein, this game is also for you, because it does kind of go through the same things. It's not as open and level designed with some secrets, like Doom Eternal or 2016 has, or Wolfenstein, but it has those big set pieces where you're in an arena against a lot of enemies that are spawning in or swarming in. And in some of those situations, the writing's fairly funny too, especially in the open level, where you're just wiping out squad after squad, coming down the elevator to attack you, and you get to the last squad, and they just phone in like, he's killed everyone else, should we still go in there? And they get yelled at by their boss to go in there, and lo and behold, they get wiped out again. So the writing is there in some situations. There are some generally funny moments. There's a ton of intel you can pick up. I know I kind of got off on a tangent here when I was comparing it to Fear 2. But there's a ton of intel and stuff you can pick up, and not only the main missions, but the side missions as well that kind of explain the lore of the game a little bit better, but I didn't bother going through and reading it. That's not my thing in a game like this. My thing in a game like this was I came here to be in bullet time and slide around and go invisible and blow enemies into little giblets. That's what I wanted to do. But yeah, so if you like Doom or Wolfenstein, this game will probably fit your style and what you want to do. It's not incredibly long at all. All the main missions, side missions, combat missions probably took me about 12 to 14 hours to beat on normal, and that was just taking my time and kind of going through it. And then I added another 6 or so hours to beat the main missions and side missions on Rage mode, because there was quite a bit of dying, having to go back in, clear stuff again. So if you do like to replay your game and step up the difficulty, you can very well so do it in this game, and you do retain all of your attachment unlocks and weapons and stuff available to you if you go through and replay the levels. And replaying the levels is super easy. You just go to your mission board, click on the level, it lets you replay it, tells you which ones you've beaten it on, so there's that. So overall, for the price tag of $29.99, I do think it's absolutely worth the cost of entry, at least for me. For the 20 hours I got out of it, that's $1.50 per hour. Totally worth it to me. It was a super, super fun time I spent in the game. It was super fun going through on rage mode through the levels, knowing exactly where I needed to go and just blasting enemies with my preferred loadout and swapping weapons when I needed to, and understanding when to take someone hostage, when to throw them as a grenade, sliding through groups of enemies like I'm a fucking bowling ball going through some 10 pins. It's fantastic. There's also a demo on Steam if you want to try it out and see if it's something you'd like before giving it the old buy. But like I said, I do think if you liked the old Fear series, it's really a love letter to these old games, down to the light horror stuff going on in the game. I think it does it better than the Fear series did. They implement it more into the gameplay than Fear series ever did, where Fear was more about jump scares. This game has a couple times they do jump scares, but it's about mechanic. There's one particular moment where it's really about a mechanic for that level. Other than that, there's more actual horror elements at play in the game. It's kind of creepy at times, a little creepypasta here or there. A lot of like the SCP backroom stuff going on at some points. But yeah, if you like the Fear series, if you like boomer shooters, this game is probably definitely for you, and you'll have a blast of time that you spend with it. So thanks for giving this a watch. I do recommend Trepang2 for anyone who's a fan of the old Fear series or boomer shooters in general. Thanks for watching.